What's up guys, Jay here, and today we're going to go over the perk system in DeepRockGalactic. We're going to go over what exactly perks are, how to utilize them, and the steps needed to unlock and upgrade them, as well as some recommendations on the kinds of class synergies that they can create. This was one of the few factors I wasn't able to touch on in my beginner's guide video because there's a lot to cover regarding this system, so I thought it was only fair that I give it a video of its own. Now if you guys are ready, let's get into the guide on unlocking and using perks in DeepRockGalactic. By the way, if you want to see more gaming videos, subscribe to the channel. That way it's easier to find my content.
I'm wondering if fighting bugs and moving dirt is the best way to make a living.
So you're trying to figure out how to use perks in DeepRockGalactic. Well, the first thing to understand is just what perks are in general. Perks are essentially extra abilities or stat increases that you can equip to any of the classes to improve your playstyle. They can offer small things like the ability to carry more minerals, or more intricate things like giving you an instant revive once per mission. There are many different perks you can acquire in the game, but they can all be put into one of two categories: passive perks and active perks. Active perks are activated as abilities by the player doing a specific action, while passive perks are always active and always give a bonus. Some active perks also have a passive effect which does not need to be activated. A player can have up to 2 active perks and 3 passive perks equipped at any time, and you can adjust which ones you are currently using at the equipment terminal.
God damn it, there's a pebble in my boot!
In order to use any perk in the first place, you need to unlock them. So how do you do that? Well, you do this by accessing the Key Performance Indicator or KPI terminal on the space rig. The terminal is located on the left side wall of the room that you first spawn in when joining a lobby. This terminal is usually used for checking out stats, like how many mission types you've done on a certain biome, or show you that you've played one class way more than any other, but it also has 2 other menus that you can access: milestones and perks. The milestone page shows you various different challenges you can complete in order to obtain perk points. Now, I use the phrase challenges very lightly because all they ask you to do is basically just play the game. Completing missions as a certain class, collecting an amount of a certain mineral, all things that are so simple that honestly just playing the game without even thinking about it will complete so many milestones for you. Once you get a good amount of perk points, you then need to use them at the perk menu to unlock the perks themselves. The perks are divided into different tiers that you need to progressively work your way through. In order to get to the next tier, you need to unlock the required number of perks in the current tier, indicated by the number of arrows on the side. So for example, in order to unlock tier 2 of perks, you need to unlock 3 perks in the first tier. Also note that each perk has several levels to it that increase its overall effectiveness. One thing I want to point out is that you shouldn't worry too much about which perks you should unlock first since you're just starting out. At the lower difficulties, your perk setup doesn't have too much impact on your effectiveness, so I would just experiment with each one and see which ones you like before going too deep into build crafting. Also, one final tip: to unlock the second active perk slot, you need to have promoted at least one of your classes.
To mates, to darkness, and to making it back alive.
So now that you know what perks are fundamentally and how to acquire them, the next step is to understand what each perk actually does and what they can offer. So at this point, let's take a look at each perk and what effects they have, as well as if any specific classes can stand to benefit the most from them. Note that for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to be talking about each perk at its highest level. So if you're just starting out and the numbers may not be as high as what I'm going to say, don't worry, but it's just going to give you an idea of what to expect. First, let's talk about the active perks. The dash perk lets you double press the sprint button to activate a supercharged sprint where you move twice as fast and completely ignore any and all slowdown effects. The boost lasts for 1.5 seconds and has a cooldown of 25 seconds. Dash is a super useful perk to have as it allows you to quickly escape danger or reposition yourself if caught off guard. This is a good perk to take on basically any class, but I would say the scout doesn't really need it as he already has a crazy amount of mobility. Field Link has a passive and active effect. Passively, whenever you're within 4 meters of an ally, you each gain 50% faster shield recharge rate. You can also activate the perk to target an ally and give them 300% more shields for 30 seconds. The active part of this perk has a 2-minute cooldown. This is another perk that's generally very useful. Having the extra shield regen is extremely handy, and the active ability can help save someone in a pinch if they're being overwhelmed. Field Medic is another combo perk. Its passive lets you revive fallen allies 30% faster, and if the perk is at max level, when you revive an ally, all nearby enemies will flee in terror. The active ability lets you instantly revive an ally once per mission. Field Medic can be a very useful perk to bring on any mission type. The passive fast revive speed is so nice, and being able to instantly revive someone can make for some very clutch saves. Heightened Senses is yet another combo perk. Its passive gives you an early warning when an enemy is about to grab you in the form of a sound and visual cue. Its active ability lets you free yourself if an enemy grabs you up to 2 times per mission, killing the enemy that grabbed you in the process. This is a very good perk to bring if you're playing by yourself, but loses some of its value when you have a full team to back you up. I would say if you're going solo, it works out for any class, but once you have a full team, there's probably better options to bring, but still a useful perk nonetheless. See You in Hell is yet another 2-part perk. Its passive makes it so that whenever an enemy hits you with a melee attack, you gain increased pickaxe damage for 1.5 seconds. For the active skill, up to 3 times per mission, whenever you get downed, you can trigger a large explosion around you that deals damage and causes enemies to run away in fear. This perk is useful, but feels a little niche to me personally. The damage boost is only to pickaxe melee damage, which is a little limiting, but the pulse ability is definitely useful for taking pressure off of you so that way somebody can revive you. Iron Will allows you to, once per mission, get yourself back up when down and enter a last stand mode for 12 seconds. While in this mode, you are immune to all damage, your weapons are reloaded, you move faster, your pickaxe is stronger, and you are less affected by slows. When the time runs out, however, you drop back to the ground, unless you are able to gain health in some way. This can be a very clutch perk for saving the team if everyone gets downed at once. What's more, it combos very well with another perk that we'll cover in a minute. Ultimately, this is another useful perk and any class can use it effectively. Berserker is a perk that you can activate to gain boosted pickaxe damage and near instant power attack recharge for 10 seconds with a cooldown of a whopping 4 minutes. This perk has its uses for sure, as it can help you level an entire wall in a very short period of time. Other than that though, it seems like a very specific ability. Still, any class benefits from it, and being able to obliterate the terrain can be very fun, especially when you don't have a driller to do it for you. Hover Boots allows you to activate a pair of fancy boots that keep you in the air for 3.5 seconds and has a 75-second cooldown. This can be a very useful perk if you're someone who finds themselves falling down a hole more often than you would like, as it can save your life in a pinch. Also, while not very applicable, the boots can burn and damage enemies directly beneath you, although this doesn't come up very often. Pro tip, if you're a scout without an engineer, use these, it'll save your life, trust me. Finally, Beastmaster allows you to actually tame an enemy grunt, slasher, or guard and make it your personal pet named Steve. Steve is such a good boy. He will fight you until he dies and does 300% more damage. The ability has a 5-minute cooldown, but there is a 20-second cooldown that starts when Steve dies before you can tame another one. This is my personal favorite active perk to run, and any class can gain use out of it. I mean, you get your own personal pet bug. Do I need to say anything else? That does it for the active perks. Now let's look at the passive perk options. Deep Pockets is a very simple perk that lets you carry up to 15 more minerals in your pockets. That's it. It's a good perk to take if you're just starting out, but as you move up to the higher difficulties, you'll probably want to swap this out for something with a little more practicality that can help you more in combat. Thorns is another simple perk that makes it so that anytime an enemy hits you with a melee attack, it will itself also take damage. This is a good perk to take if you're just starting out and no matter what class you play as, because it helps keep the pressure off of you during swarms and can give you more survivability. Elemental Insulation is yet another simple perk that gives you up to 30% resistance to all elemental damage. This includes fire, frost, electricity, poison, radiation, and temperature damage. This is a nice general perk to take as it gives you more survivability. It's also able to stack with other damage reduction methods. Friendly makes it so that way you both take and deal 50% less damage from friendly fire. This is a nice perk to take if you're just starting out and not used to your weapons yet, and it can be really useful on someone like the Driller who has a lot of weapons that have a very large spread. Once you get to the higher play, however, you probably won't use this one as much since you'll most likely be better with gunplay. Second Wind gives you a 12% speed boost after sprinting for about 4 seconds. It's a nice perk to give you a little bit more mobility while sprinting and can help you cover a lot of ground fast. Classes like the Gunner and Engineer, who don't have a whole lot of mobility, can especially capitalize on this. Veteran Depositor makes it so that you deposit minerals up to 50% faster, and that you take 30% reduced damage while within 7 meters of a deposit point. This can be either Molly, a mine head, or a drop pod. This can be a useful perk if you want to have a bit more survivability, as well as making you more efficient at gathering minerals. Resupplier makes you restock 50% faster at a resupply pod, and that you recover an extra 25% health when you resupply. Also, when you do resupply, all of your weapons automatically reload. This is a more specific perk choice, and if you want to take it you can, but I personally think that there are a couple better options. Still, the extra health is nice, and having less downtime between attacks can be handy. Sweet Tooth lets you get 30% more health when getting red sugar. At max level, it also gives you a 20% movement speed bonus for 10 seconds after getting red sugar. This is a pretty useful perk for helping you stay healthy without having to call for a resupply all the time. This can be really effective when paired with Iron Will, so you can get yourself up and then heal to stay up. Unstoppable reduces the effect of environmental slowdowns by up to 50% and also allows you to move 25% faster when carrying a heavy object like a gem or egg. This can be another way to increase survivability, as being able to move faster can save your life in certain instances, unless you're the scout, because then you can just zip away. Strong Arm allows you to throw flares 50% farther and throw heavy objects 20% farther. While this perk can be useful on some specific mission types, personally I think it's a little too specific and not as impactful enough to bring regularly. Still, if you want to yeet your flares across the map, you certainly can. Vampire grants you 5 health whenever you kill a medium-sized or larger enemy with a melee attack. Remember what I said earlier about Iron Will? Well, this is the combo perk I was talking about. Just activate Iron Will, then kill one grunt with a power attack and you have a free revive basically. This perk works extremely well on the driller as well, as both his power drills and his throwing axes count as melee damage, allowing him to easily keep himself full of health. It's a Bug thing is kind of a meme. It says that loot bugs will explode whenever you get within 5 meters of them. This doesn't really have a lot of practical use, but it's fun to see all those loot bugs popped when you get near them. Born Ready is the last perk for us to talk about, and it's arguably one of the best. It causes your unequipped weapons to automatically reload after 5 seconds. This is super useful at reducing downtime between damage. For classes like the Gunner and Engineer that have weapons with long reload times, this can be an incredibly helpful perk. Well, that was a lot of perks to talk about all at once, but hopefully now you understand how perks work and the kinds of abilities that they provide. There are a ton of crazy combinations of perks that you can use, and I don't have nearly enough time to go through all of them. If you guys have any cool perk combos you've discovered in your playtime, let me know in the comments. Personally, I'm still pretty fond of Iron Will plus Vampire, but I'm sure there are so many more. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video helpful. Please be sure to give it a like because it tells me which types of videos you guys want to see. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next Friday for another video.